There's some plugins you ignore and do just fine without, but some you really just have to try out at some point in your journey. One of those is the AVALON Vt 737 tube channel strip. In our last video, I showed you guys how using this plugin on your vocal chain can serve as both an opto compressor and an EQ that gives your vocal this air at the top end. In this video, I'm going to review and break down this plugin so you understand how every control on it works. Yo guys, I'm BiiMan and you're welcome to the video. This is the AVALON Vt 737 tube channel strip plugin from Universal Audio. You shouldn't mistake this for the AVALON Vt 747. This is different. Let me show you guys how this thing works. This right here is the signal flow from the left to the right. I'll explain and demonstrate along as we go. So, at the very extreme left, we have the first tube preamp gain. A quick side note, if you are a Universal Audio Apollo interface user, you can make use of the Unison technology by inserting this plugin at the dedicated Unison insert within the Apollo console application. Record directly through the tube preamp and control the preamp gain directly with your audio interface. That being said, turning the preamp gain control clockwise increases the amount of gain applied to the input signal. You should also know that applying more gain gives you more tube tune into the preamp. Use this control at minimum and maximum levels to get different sounds and colors from the preamp. Still on the preamp gain, we have the input select. This works together with the preamp gain and lets you switch between a mic input and a line input. I believe that's self-explanatory. You should always be careful when switching from line to mic input, as signal output levels can increase significantly the same way it does with the hardware. When set to mic input, the gain range can go from 0 dB to plus 45 dB, and when set to line input, the gain range goes from negative 28 dB to plus 9 dB. After the input select, the signal goes into the variable high-pass filter. This switch enables a 6 dB per octave high-pass input filter. The cutoff frequency of the input filter is adjusted with the high-pass frequency control, which is this section down here. The available frequency range for the high-pass filter goes from 30 Hz to 140 Hz. This control has no effect unless the filter switch over here is enabled. From here, the signal goes to the second tube preamp gain. Here, we have the input mode. Under the input mode, we have the high gain over here. This is simply an on and off switch that boosts the overall gain of the preamp. When the input select is set to line and high gain switched on, the preamp gain is increased by plus 8 dB. When switched to mic, the preamp gain increases by plus 18 dB. This extra signal boost can be used to overdrive the vacuum tube stages. This can go from a subtle overdrive to the signal to all-out distortion. You can then always use the output control over here at the extreme right to turn down the volume of the overdriven signal. From here, the signal continues right under the high gain switch. Here, we have the phase switch. This inverts the polarity of the incoming signal. I believe you already know what this means. For beginner's sake, let's say you are recording a signal source with 2 microphones. You would want to invert the polarity of the signal to reduce phase cancellation. Directly under the phase, we have the path switch. Note that this is a plugin on the feature that is not available in the original hardware. When path is switched on, the signal input is lowered by -20 dB. Also, path is unavailable when input select is set to line input. From here, the signal enters the tube optocompressor. I don't think I still have to explain how a compressor works. However, certain features worth mentioning about this optocompressor are the compressor switches. We have EQ to COM pre. When this is switched on, the signal flow changes and the EQ comes before the compressor. The pre means before, so before compression. Meter GR. When this is switched on, the speed-sensitive VU meter displays gain reduction from compression, and when not, it displays the output level of the signal. The GR stands for gain reduction. Comp in. When engaged, the compressor circuit is active, and when not, the compressor is bypassed. SC link in. The SC stands for sidechain. This links both the left and right channels when used in stereo mode, so compression is applied evenly on both channels. When switched off, compression is applied independently to the left and right channel. Then we have the usual compressor controls. Threshold. The available threshold range is -30 dB to +20 dB. Ratio. The available compression ratio range is 1:1, which is no compression, to 20:1. Attack. The available attack range is approximately 2 milliseconds to 20 milliseconds. The attack also works with this 4x switch here. When engaged, the attack becomes 4 times faster. Release. The release range is approximately 100 milliseconds to 5 seconds, which is a very slow release, typical for optocompressors. From here, the signal goes into the EQ. This is considering that the EQ COM pre switch is not turned on. If turned on, the signal goes into the EQ first before the compressor. When the signal reaches the EQ, it first goes into the passive bass and treble EQ, which are shelf EQs, before it goes into the active mid-range EQ. The different EQ controls are: first, you have the bass gain, which lets you boost and attenuate the bass frequency with a shelving filter up to +24 dB and -24 dB respectively. Right below that, you have the bass frequency knob to select the different bass frequencies from. This goes from 15 Hz to 150 Hz. After that, we have the treble gain. This, just like the bass gain, is a passive high shelving band that lets you boost and attenuate the treble frequency up to +20 dB and -20 dB respectively. Right below is the treble frequency that lets you select the frequency you're boosting or attenuating. This goes from 10 kHz to 32 kHz, with 32 kHz being that special air frequency feature on this plugin. These shelf EQs look something like this. Remember that the signal flow goes from the passive bass and treble EQ before it goes into the active mid-range EQ. This is followed by the low mid gain. This lets you boost and reduce the low mid-range band up to +16 dB and -16 dB. Right below that, you have the low mid frequency knob to select the different low mid frequencies from. This goes from 35 Hz to 450 Hz. Something very important also happens here. When this timestamp switch is engaged, any frequency selected on this band is multiplied by 10. 35 Hz becomes 350 Hz, while 450 Hz becomes 4.5 kHz, which is 4500 Hz. This gives you a wide range of frequencies to work with by just engaging a single switch. After that, we have the high mid gain. This lets you boost and attenuate the high mid frequencies up to +16 dB and -16 dB respectively. Right below that, you have the high mid frequency knob to select the different frequencies from. This goes from 220 Hz to 2800 Hz. When this band's timestamp switch is engaged, any frequency selected on this band is multiplied by 10. 220 Hz becomes 2200 Hz, while 2800 Hz becomes 28,000 Hz, which is 28k Hz. This active mid-range peak EQs looks something like this. We then have the EQ switches, some of which we have already mentioned. The rest are high Q. This sets the bandwidth of the frequencies surrounding the mid-range band center frequency. When off, you get a broader bandwidth, and when on, you get a narrower bandwidth for more precise control. We have the sidechain EQ, SC MIT. This enables the sidechain EQ function. When switched on, the low and high mid-range EQ bands are removed from the audio part and are instead routed to control the compressor's sidechain signal. Watch how the compressor reacts when I engage these controls.
Upset that you only think about me when you care about you. Upset that you only think about me when you care about you. I'm kinda upset that you only care about me when you think about you. Upset that you only think about me when you care about you.
This is because more signal from this frequency we have selected is being sent into the compressor. You can use this as some sort of a de-esser and boost a particular frequency so it triggers the compressor more. Remember, this is already removed from the audio part. This can also be active even if the main EQ power button is switched off. And right after that is the set EQ power button. The signal flow then ends at the extreme right with the output. This lets you adjust the final output level. The available range goes from -40 dB to +10 dB, and obviously the power button. This lets you engage or bypass the entire plugin. That's all about this amazing tool, guys. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Take care.